The rain poured relentlessly, beating against the tinted window of a sleek black car. Inside, Arthur Malik, a self-made millionaire in his early 50s, sat motionless. His eyes were fixed outside at a scene that shattered his world in seconds. There, in the cold and mud, stood his only son, Ryan, barely 22, drenched, shivering, and clutching a torn backpack. Two security guards were dragging him out of a mansion, Arthur's own mansion. Arthur couldn't breathe. His fingers trembled as he opened the car door. "Stop!" he shouted, but no one listened. In that moment, Arthur's heart cracked, not because his son had fallen, but because he had built the world that humiliated him. And what Arthur did next, a broken bar, shocked everyone, even himself. Chapter 1. At the distance between two hearts, Arthur Malik had everything money could buy: luxury cars, global businesses, and a mansion that could house 100 people. Yet inside those marble walls, there was emptiness. His wife had passed years ago, and his son Ryan barely spoke to him. When Ryan turned 18, Arthur wanted him to join the family business, but Ryan refused. He wanted to live differently, to build something on his own, to understand people, to find purpose beyond money. Arthur laughed it off at first, calling it a phase. But when Ryan left home to work small jobs and live modestly, Arthur's pride turned to anger. Let him learn the hard way, Arthur had told himself. He'll come back when reality hits. Years passed. They barely spoke. Arthur grew richer. Ryan grew humbler. Yet one evening, fate brought them together again, not in an office, not at home, but on a rainy street outside Arthur's own mansion. Arthur had returned early from a business trip and noticed a commotion at his gate. Curious, he stopped the car, and there he saw Ryan, being thrown out by his own house staff. Ryan had come home after years, not to ask for money, but to deliver something. He had been volunteering at a community shelter and had come to personally return an old family photo he found there, a photo of Arthur, his late wife, and a 5-year-old Ryan. But the guards didn't recognize him. Dressed in simple clothes, thin from hardship, Ryan looked nothing like the millionaire's son. The guards assumed he was a beggar trying to sneak in. They yelled, shoved, and finally kicked him out onto the street. Arthur froze, watching it all. For years, he thought he'd been teaching his son a lesson about life. But now, life was teaching him. He rushed out, shouting Ryan's name. Ryan turned, startled, tears mixing with the rain. "A broken bar," he whispered. Arthur took off his coat and covered his son's shoulders. The weight of guilt crushed him. "Come home, son," he said softly. "Please." But Ryan shook his head. "Home? You mean the house where even the walls have forgotten me?" Arthur felt his throat tighten. The silence that followed wasn't from pride, that was from regret. That night, Arthur made a decision that would change everything. Chapter 2. At the lesson money couldn't buy. The next morning, Arthur walked into his mansion and gathered all the staff. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with anger and pain. "You all forgot something," he said. "You forgot who this house belongs to. You forgot respect." He looked at the guards who had thrown Ryan out. "That young man you kicked out, he's my son. And today, you showed me what kind of home I've built, one without heart." He dismissed the guards immediately. But he didn't stop there. Arthur announced a new rule. Every person who works under him, in business or in the house, must take 1 day a month to serve the community. Because wealth without empathy, he said, is poverty in disguise. Later that day, Arthur went to the small room where Ryan was resting. Ryan's face was calm but distant. "I failed you, son," Arthur began quietly. "I thought success was about winning a broken bar, but I lost you in the process." Ryan looked at him, not with anger, but sadness. "Dad, I didn't need your money. I just needed your time." That sentence broke Arthur completely. For the first time in years, the two sat together, not as a millionaire and his heir, but as father and son. They talked until sunrise, about Ryan's work with poor families, about his mother's memories, about forgiveness. Over the next months, Arthur began joining Ryan at the shelter. He served food, cleaned tables, and met people whose smiles were richer than his bank account. The media caught wind of it, the millionaire who served as a volunteer. But Arthur didn't care about headlines anymore. He cared about rebuilding something deeper, as family's soul. Years later, when Ryan started his own organization helping underprivileged youth, Arthur became its biggest supporter. He often said in interviews, "Greater than the day I saw my son kicked out like a servant was the day I realized I was the real servant, a servant to pride, to ego, to wealth. But my son a broken bar he freed me." At his negation full circle, Hook reconnect at the end. The story closes just as it began, with rain falling softly outside the same mansion. But this time, it isn't cold or lonely. Ryan stands at the gate, not being thrown out, but welcoming people in. The guards, new and humble, smile respectfully. Inside, Arthur helps set up dinner for orphans the shelter has brought in for the night. He catches a glimpse of Ryan laughing, just like his mother used to. Arthur smiles, whispers under his breath, "Greater than I almost lost you once, son, never again." And as the camera pans out through the rain, Arthur's words echo softly, "Greater than money can buy houses, but only love makes a home."